Hello everyone, I'm Xiao Gang. Okay, let's start now to complete how to embed these three parts. Creating a server instance, starting listening, and finally recycling resources. First, let's go to our HTTP object. Here, we definitely need to include it because we are going to write a U class, so we need to include commonize. At the same time, because we are going to learn HTTP, we need to include the HTTP module. You see here, this file is the HTTP server module. Where is this file? We can't navigate there. We can ignore it. It should be accessible this way. Okay, good. We have directly included it here. Next, we need to include our request type and response type. These things, actually, we haven't used them yet because the client hasn't been developed yet. Because we are still in phase A, we still need to go to phase B and then to phase C. Only then will we use these two header files, but we still include them here. Okay, because we will include them later. We just write it all at once because this file has reflection. So we need to handle the reflection information. Then we here copy the reflection name over. Actually, we could probably do without reflection here. But since we already wrote the reflection, let's just write the reflection for everyone. Note that this is the JIT for simple questions. Then we go to U class. Then this is a U class, and its name we will call it this. Actually, it is a server object. Yes. We need to calculate this after Esther. And we need to write the reflection and also write the destructor function. This is the destructor function. Remember to make it virtual. Then we create it. We create this again. Then we let it compile now. This compilation didn't pass, right? A circular dependency is detected here. Let's see where the circular dependency is written incorrectly. Let's take a look. This circular dependency here detected at this position. It's because there's a mistake here. Here, we made a mistake here. There is also a circle depends, meaning circular dependency. Let's compile again. Okay, this should be fine now. And because this object is actually a singleton, right, then we need to start writing our singleton method. Obviously, we'll use the same old approach. Just 3 methods. For 3 methods, there must be a corresponding global pointer. For this pointer, we'll use this. We also need to talk about the protected variable. Okay, let's initialize it here. Then what do we do in the get method? Here, we check this condition, whether the current instance is null. If not, if it is null, we need to instantiate it. And because it is a static variable, so we need to declare it when entering or exiting. Because it is static, it should be written like this. Its type is this. A pointer to several object. Its location is here. We register it as a null pointer. Good. Okay, that should do it. Then, regarding the get method here, we actually just need to return it back in. This part is written incorrectly. It should be written here. Then the init method is where we perform the initialization operations. Let's write the destroy method first. Init and destroy probably need to be written as a pair. So as it appears here, if we call destroy, we need to remove this thing from the root. Because it's a U class, we can only use loo object. We cannot directly use loo and delete. Okay, we need to print a log here. We need to record this time. record our workflow. Then include the log in this position. Just including it in our original text will be fine. Okay, let's also bring this log in. Good, so that's done. Then for this process, we just embed it in. Let's also add a log for this init. But we haven't executed any work yet. Then go back to this object part. We'll embed it into our outer loop. Then here, first we need to create a pointer to receive it. Okay, let's have this pointer here. Okay, let's have this pointer point to here. Then this method will work. Of course, you don't have to write it this way. I just wrote it this way before. I was thinking about this lifecycle before. How should it be controlled to be more reasonable? Actually, you don't need this step here. You can just do it the same way as our code. Just get it and let it init directly. We'll just do it like this. But we still write it this way here. Init, and then just destroy it directly here. And here's a detail I want to emphasize for everyone. That is the order. Because you read the configuration first, then you create the instance. So when you destruct, you need to destroy the instance first, then destroy the configuration in reverse. This is to avoid a dependency relationship. So it needs to be resolved. Okay, next, let's go back to where we were. Here we actually have gate and init. And we will mainly handle this init method first. Actually, here, the first step is to initialize the database. But obviously, we don't have this database right now. In this method, we'll just pretend we'll call it init data. We don't have this method yet. Let's just leave it here. You can implement this method yourself. That is where you want to get the data from. Obtain such a startup data. Suppose we initialize here some data. This data, for example, is the user's name or some user passwords and the like. We use some struts, assign them here. We'll ignore it. Next, we need to get our FTcpSocketBuilder module. This thing. So how do we get it? Actually, we get it in this way. We get it through this module. The module has a get method. It returns the FTcpSocketBuilder module thing. Then we store a pointer here. Now store one. Save a pointer to point it to our server module object. Then we can get the server module. We can use it later. Then, after getting the server module, we specify the path we want to access. The path we are currently accessing, we consider it to be the gunlog path. As for the port it accesses, we need to read it from our configuration. So actually this configuration is the one here. Okay. Through this configuration, we first get the singleton of the global configuration, then get the port number. Then we specify the singleton here. Okay. After specifying this single column, we can get this port. Then get this info and then get these ports. Next, we need to get the path of the serial port. Get a rotator, that is, get something like a root you see here. That is to say, this thing can return a smart pointer, HP rotator. That is the object bound to this port. You can bind to it and listen to it. Then the way this object is declared is in this format. This interface, this format says our interface. First look at this format, right? It is this format because it is a smart finger vibration. In this way, we won't look at the underlying layer. Then after obtaining this object, we need to print a log because we already have the necessary information already prepared. That is, we enable this HTTP, ready to start the HTTP server. Its port is obtained from our configuration. Then this HTTP rotator is for us to instantiate, obtain this object, which specific function is working. We reflect it out. Then now we take this thing and bind it up. Okay, for the part, we use the rotator handle. We use this to get the object and call a method of bound rotator, then pass in the path we want to bind and the type of access, then just the method to bind. Next, let's refine these few things further. First, we need to prepare a handle, because the thing we bind already has a handle. This handle is used later to unbind it. Right, so we have a handle here. Then we also have one here. When we send ITCP, we definitely have a method. Then for this method, we need it to be like this, so we can get the method sent from the network. Okay, so there's no issue here. Look. What is the prompt here? First, check the cause of the error here. The cause of the error is very simple. Because of version changes, it changed its name again. This name is called this handler. This handler and its signature is this bold type. And then its server request. It's called this name. And here are some of its hints. Then let's change it. Let's change it. Let's handle this here. Take a look at this place. This handle is fine. No problem. There's a mistake here. Sorry, this is here. This is still this. We mainly need to check it prompts here. It says there is no default constructor. To convert this thing. Another such thing. This issue is generally the function signature. Because, let me take another look. Okay, I see the reason is definite, that the binding method here is not reasonable. He changed it here. Then let's bind it this way. You can search globally for this rotator. The roll method. You will find that compared to previous versions, the engine has added many experimental plugins. They all use it this way. So there is no problem with us using it this way either. So we bind it through this method. We have a bind called BindUobject. And then at this point, we need to pass this method into it. Then we can just place it like this. Take a look at the method here. Okay, then we should be able to do it like this. You declare a tdelete like this, then bind a opro in the twet. The bound object is this one. Now we need to move this object to the front. Move it to our station to work on it. Yes, then we move it here. Use the pass and bind one. Okay, and with that done, we bind this part here, and here we let it. You can see it supports so many types, right? Actually, the ones we use most often are just POST and GET. Then we make it support get here. And the way to support get is usually written like this. That's it. Because this way it can support these two types. Merge them together. Okay, so this basically completes our entire setup. Once this is done, we need to study the code here. Because when we process it, we handle it within this. And regarding the static difference here, we don't need static because it's bound to the U object. So we don't need to worry about this issue here. Then first, we make it return a tool here. First, let it return a tool by default. Then, to ensure this timing, we can record a count type to handle our current how much time this interaction takes. So record this timestamp here, but you can write some structs. This way, you don't have to write that so-called 2 lines of code. Then here, we get our end time. Okay, our start process time also needs to be copied. Okay. Again, let's paste this here. So we have the time now. And over here, let's take a look at this enum. We can't compile this enum yet. So let's ignore this enum for now. Let's just write a quick test first. Not okay. And then in this way, we can actually introduce HTTP. But for HTTP, we need to make it return something. Because if you don't return it, it won't know what kind of situation has occurred. As for returning, we can just return it like this. We're just testing for now. And over here, we need to create an HTTP response. Then through this incomplete diagon, we can return it back. So here we write for JSON, we write a simpler JSON. Remember how we write this JSON, right? Should be no problem. We'll just concatenate it like this. We give it a code. Give it a code. Milestone sets it. Okay, good. So like this. Actually, we have another interface. This interface, it will return a 19076 for him to access. Then let's start it first. Okay, it should have started normally. Let's check it. Yes, okay, no problem. Because the binding takes time, then we enter our localhost here. It should be 1833, right? If you can't write it like this, then write it like this. Because sometimes it defaults to 3033. Obviously, it seems like it's not being accessed here. Not being accessed. Let's check again. 833 200 add log. If this is not accessed, we will check again what the reason is. The reason for not receiving is actually very simple. I looked at the code and found something missing. Something was missing. That is, we actually need to start listening here, because here you have only registered the information. Actually, this server has not yet started all such listening. So since you have a start listening, then when we exit, you must close the listening, right? And actually first we'll close the listening. Then we take this rotator again. If it has something, we then directly assign it to it. We then unbomb this thing, unbomb this handle. We then unbond it. This is actually handling. Used to pass the delegate this place. These names are a bit similar. Unbind it here again. Only then can it correctly release the resource. So now let's try it again. Okay, we have now started. This place is a break. We don't need to worry about it. Okay, let's input it again now. We are now on localhost 8033. You can see, actually, it has already come in now, and it has successfully accessed this place, right? It's just that we haven't accessed our port yet. We input Logan. It came in, so we don't need to worry about it here. Here we have a breakpoint, and you can see there are some question marks here. We don't need to worry about the question marks. It might be a problem with our test uniform encoding. We'll deal with it later. The test here is normal. Then we are here. You will notice there is this thing here, right? And at this point, we need to use Postman. Everyone should learn Postman on their own. It's very simple. It's a skill that front-end developers must master. Then we are here. We'll set up a get he over post. Both work. We'll give it a local, and we'll give it 80,033. We won't send any data. Let me show you. What is this aligned with? This is correct. We then put this slogan on top. Send it to us. See, you have received the data. It's the same if we switch to post, right? Also, note that if you disable this here, see if you turn off this get here, then there is no get. Then your GT will be inaccessible. So what this lesson demonstrates is simply binding a port and exposing that port for interactive access. Actually, there are many more details involved. Let's fix the encoding issue now. Let's check if the encoding format of our current file is problematic. Its encoding format seems to be fine. Then we'll leave this part alone. This is a function, the test here. Typing Chinese here seems to have some issues. This should be related to the encoding like VS and GBK. We'll ignore it. We generally don't use Chinese, so let's change it to TESO. Okay, Alright, that's all for this lesson. Next, we'll start writing some content related to communication between the client and the server.